Hello and welcome to this week's Different League show, sponsored by Betfred. So as the country starts to open up and we welcome back grassroots football at the end of next month, at elite level things just don't change. City win, Liverpool lose, and Jose Mourinho continues to make interesting comments. Now I'm sure I saw Neil Mellor wince there as I mentioned the words Liverpool. He's alongside Mark and myself. How you find the Liverpool TV right now?
Tough. That was a tough introduction as well. I wasn't expecting that. It's unusual that Liverpool are having this run. They've been so good over the last couple of years and they need to find a way out of it. They really do. You know, it was another disappointing result against Everton on the back of a good result in the Champions League. And then you look at the game this weekend, a must win to try and get back in that battle for the top four. Now,
Sort of at the end of next month, people will be allowed to play football together. Are you planning at all to play with your mates? And if you get fit quickly, you might get in the Liverpool first team. Sorry, that's the end of the Liverpool things. I apologise, mate.
Yeah, I don't know if my body can handle it anymore, but it's good news, isn't it? That certainly the grassroots will return for the kids, and of course the fans aren't far away from getting back in.
OK, well look, this week's big talking points, the main one is of course that Boris Johnson gave us a bit of a good news on Monday. We'll see if we can make Ascot. We've just been discussing that off air, Mark. But look, with the easing of lockdown, we could have up to 10,000 fans come mid-May. Is that great news, or is actually very, very cautious, and football has already shown that it can be COVID secure?
I think it has to be cautious. You can't. We almost got ahead of ourselves last time round, and people got in for one or two games or whatever it was, and then the plug got pulled on it. So I think a cautious way, and it's so late in the season that I think it should be that way as well, and you're almost planning for next season to make sure that things go well, and the European Championships. Looks like the sort of non-essential retail and pubs will be open by then, and just in time for England against the Czech Republic one day later.
That sounds absolutely brilliant. Looking forward to that one already. As it stands, and things might change, the FA Cup, there won't be any fans, but it could be the last game of this Premier League season. Interesting, the Premier League are saying, well, they don't know if they're going to have it. How do you see it?
That will be interesting, yeah. Hopefully everything goes okay up until that point, with certainly the restrictions being lifted. But that could be a big advantage on the last day of the season for those teams playing at home. I think there's a couple of big games left to play on the last day of the season. I'm thinking Fulham Newcastle, that could be a huge game at the bottom of the table, could almost be a decider. So it'd be interesting to see if we do get to that point whether the fans will be allowed. But we want the fans back in as soon as possible. Certainly football has missed them.
Definitely. Jose Mourinho having major problems at Spurs at the moment. As I can see that wry smile there, you're thinking, what am I going to say now? 5 defeats in 6. They're 9th in the table. They're 9 points off a Champions League place. He's now favourite for the sack of the Premier League. And he said after that defeat to West Ham as well, mine and my coaching staff's methods are second to nobody in the world, and that his Spurs side have problems I cannot resolve.
Well, I think he's talking about the individual mistakes that it's very difficult for any coach to do. I'm thinking back to the Hugo Lloris errors in the FA Cup game against Everton, where it goes right through him, and Højbjerg gave one away on the edge of the box, and that probably isn't something that he can do. But this is part of the usually a bit later on in his tenure, but this is part of the Jose Mourinho, where he comes in, there's this sort of upturn, and everyone thinks he's a changed man. Then results start to go well. Then when they dip, he starts to criticise the players, and then he kind of defends his own methods as sort of a way of thinking, oh, I'm going to be out of a job soon, I best make sure that the next employees know that it wasn't my fault. He did that Manchester United, where he blamed the lack of transfer business, and he's done it before. I'm sure he'll do it again. I never felt like it would be a long-term thing at Tottenham. He is still fighting on a couple of fronts, and I actually felt they were a bit unlucky against West Ham, much like they were against Everton, but people don't like to hear the hard luck stories with Jose Mourinho. They like to give him a bit of a kicking when he's down, and he's certainly down at the moment.
He's down at the moment, but not out. But breaking news this morning, Neil Lennon is out. He's resigned at Celtic. Secured the quadruple treble early in the season, but 10 in a row, just not going to happen. 18 points off Rangers now. I mean, it was coming, wasn't it? And how do you see, he's a Celtic legend, how do you see his legacy?
Well, they were on for 10 in a row. He's won 5 of them. So he's done an unbelievable job there at Celtic. It has been a dominant period for Celtic. Steven Gerrard's gone in to try and break it up, and it looks imminent when that will happen. So Neil Lennon will always be regarded as a very successful manager at Celtic. It wasn't to be this season. They're off the pace, and it looks like Rangers will end that domination. So
it shows the great job that Steven Gerrard is doing, isn't it? He's gone up there absolutely fantastic in his first managerial job. It'd be good if Frank Lampard stepped in, wouldn't it, at Celtic? That would be some rivalry.
Gerrard and Lampard went. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who does take over. But Steven Gerrard has settled into management life very, very well. He's got some good people around him. You know, Gary McAllister, Michael Beale as well, very good coach. And one thing that surprised me about Steven Gerrard's coaching and managerial style is they're really good defensively. Now we saw Steven Gerrard as a great player going forward, scoring goals. They don't concede many goals, Rangers. They've got a really good base, and then they get goals going forward as well when they need to. So he's done really well at Rangers.
Maybe he got that from Rafa, even if he didn't enjoy playing under him.
Absolutely, yeah.
And also the old versus the new generation. Are we seeing a change of the guard at the top of European football? Messi and Ronaldo have dominated world football for the last 10, 15 years. Is it a turn of Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland? I mean, since the start of last season in the Champions League, last season, Messi and Ronaldo have combined 15 goals, Mbappe and Haaland 28.
Yeah, I think it is a changing of the guard, but I don't necessarily see it just being about these two. I mean, Messi and Ronaldo were way ahead of sort of anyone else for a period, but before that, between say Maradona and this Messi-Ronaldo era, there were a lot of great players that would have sort of a couple of years, and then it would be, if it was the Brazilian Ronaldo. I mean, I remember Adriano was the best player in the world for about 6 months, and Ronaldinho had a go, and Kaká. There are so many great players. So I think we might get to something like that, where at the moment it's Mbappe and Haaland, and I'm sure that they'll sort of stay up there, but I don't see them sort of pulling way clear of everyone else and us ending up with that kind of duopoly, with it just being sort of two and then the rest. I think that that there's a number of good players out there that can kind of make it more congested. Let's not forget Neymar. I know he gets a lot of stick, but I think when he plays and when he's fit, he's still a joy to watch as well. I was just speaking to Neil about who he thinks is the better one. I'd go for Mbappe. I think he's just got a little bit more grace about him.
Would you? Interesting. I mean, Mbappe got a hat-trick in Barcelona, didn't he? And it gave Erling Haaland a slight nudge to do well for Dortmund against Sevilla. He tweeted, "When I saw Mbappe scored a hat-trick, I got free motivation, so thanks to him." Didn't do as well as Mbappe, didn't get the hat-trick, only scored 2 and an assist as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, do you think they could be a rivalry in the way that Messi and Ronaldo has been, or perhaps not quite at that level? And who would you go for?
Yeah, it's difficult at the moment because you're looking at them both and thinking, incredible young talents. Mbappe's done really well at PSG. And is a World Cup winner, but he's only been in the French League. Now, we don't regard the French League as that top European league. We'd like to see him in the Premier League. Even the La Liga is regarded as a better standard, perhaps, than the French League. And it's the same with Haaland. He's only ever won the Austrian League. Now, he's done well at Dortmund, done really well, but it's that next step. Are we going to see them at 2 top clubs that are expected to challenge year in, year out at the high end of Europe? That's the big question for me. I think they're going to be sought after, and I wonder after this pandemic whether the likes of Barca, with their financial problems, whether they can actually afford a player like that, or whether the Premier League clubs at this moment in time have an advantage to get these players over it and just see.
You would imagine Haaland at Man City with all the chances that they create. I mean, he's not necessarily a Pep type player, the way he's built, but I'm sure he could work him into that team.
Well, here's a question for you, just one word answer. I'm obviously rumours of City going for Messi, been denied, but we'll have to see if that happens. Mbappe, probably impossible to get. Haaland isn't. Messi at his age or Haaland?
Me?
Yeah.
Haaland has that longevity now.
Yeah.
Haaland.
Yeah. Messi's my favourite player ever. I think he's the greatest ever player, but Haaland's the future, isn't he? OK, let's move on now. It is a different league Q&A section. You ready for a couple of questions?
Let's go for it, yeah.
OK. That gives a viewer a chance to win a £25 Amazon voucher. So congratulations to Ian Doyle and Paul Casey as well. Ian Doyle asks, were there ever any close transfer deals that didn't go through or that you rejected?
Yes, there was a couple that got rejected, and I would say that maybe I'm different, or a lot of players are influenced by their partner. My wife was put off by the travel. There was an opportunity for me to have gone to Norwich at one point, but that was a team where my dad used to play for, but distance-wise, I just had a young child at the time, so my wife was put off by that. So that can come into the mindset of players, unsettling domestic life. That was that was one reason. Perhaps I shouldn't admit that, but there you go.
That's why you're still happily married.
Absolutely, yeah. There you go.
Definitely, you listen. Which current front three would you most like to play in?
Oh, we're just talking about Mbappe there. We're talking about Haaland. It'd be nice to blend them together, to play with them. I think Liverpool's front three have been incredible over recent years, of course. I'm a big admirer of Neymar at PSG. I think he's an incredible football player. I know he gets a lot of stick for his antics, but I think he's a really, really talented player. So who's the front three? I'm going to be biased and say I will take the place of me and Mane and sit in and out. I'll go with Salah and Firmino.
Nice. The best front three I ever saw, and I covered them on a game-by-game basis, Messi, Suarez. Who would be the other one? Messi, Suarez and Neymar. Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
It was frightening.
I think that's the greatest ever, but it was a pleasure to watch them. OK, let's go on to our game previews, shall we? First up, Saturday lunchtime, Manchester City against West Ham. It's just incredible the run they're on at the moment. And I gave Kev Phillips a simple question last week, and I'll do it for you. A nice little warm-up for you. How do you stop City?
You have to take your chances, that's for sure. Not many come along against this City defence. They've been unbelievable defensively. 6 home games in a row. They've not conceded a Premier League goal. I mean, you're thinking, it has to end eventually. Surely it has to end. What I would say about the timing of this game, it's not ideal for Manchester City. They play Wednesday night in the Champions League away against Mönchengladbach, and then it's that early kick-off on Saturday. It's a game that the managers don't like because of the quick turnaround. That's the one advantage I can think of for West Ham. They've got a full week to prepare. They're flying at the moment themselves, West Ham, full of confidence, full of belief, in a great position at the moment. So I'm thinking that if they take them chances, this could be their opportunity to get something from the game.
The Hammers are absolutely on fire at the moment, incredible, and the fans are thinking, well, maybe it could happen. Where do Rice and Souček rank for you in terms of best holding midfielders in the Premier League?
I think where they've benefited perhaps more than a lot of teams in the Premier League is they've played 25 games and they've played all the games together. They've got that understanding between each other. The team know what's happening. It gives the defence the protection, and then it allows the attacking players, like we've seen with Lingard coming, like we've seen with Bowen, Antonio, to be able to do what they need to. But I also think in both boxes, Souček has been invaluable defensively, but also attacking as well with that aerial height. So I think they've been outstanding and a big success for West Ham this season.
It is the start or beginning of some tough fixtures for West Ham. We said that at the start of the season. We were worried about them, came through it really well, but they beat Spurs, now got City away, Leeds at home, United away, Arsenal at home, and that takes them to the end of March. Will we know if it's Champions League or Europa League by the end of that?
I would have thought so. Even if they do well, there's still... the problem they've got is that they're in a battle with Chelsea and Liverpool. You would have thought now for that spot, and Liverpool will surely come good again at some stage. We've seen Chelsea beat Atletico Madrid, are playing really with confidence at the moment. So West Ham are going to have to maintain this for still a significant amount of period, and because the games do come quite quick, you can, without doing too much wrong, you can kind of drop points in 3 games, and it's like every period is like a Christmas period where you just play sort of just constantly. So I think it is a big spell for them. I still look at a lot of their stats and sort of wonder how they're doing quite so well. They're right down on possession, and they had 4 shots against Tottenham, conceded 20 odd, and won the game 2-1. So I think that they've got to still improve maybe to get that full spot. That might be the issue, because I just see Chelsea and Liverpool setting a really high standard. Yeah,
it's going to be tough, that 4th spot. OK, your Betfred selection for this game then?
I'm going to go for both teams to score. I think City are going to end that impressive defensive record. I think West Ham will get a goal with the way that they're playing. I like to think West Ham can get something from the game, but I'm not going to call that. I'm going to say both teams to score.
Do you know what? I'm going to go one step further. I totally agree with you in terms of City travelling Wednesday night, playing Saturday lunchtime. Jurgen Klopp has said this season he's not been happy about it. I think that West Ham are in fantastic form at the moment, and this amazing run has to end at some point. I'm not suggesting West Ham will win this one, but I'm going for a score draw. No, you're not having it, Mark, are you?
No, I see that point, and I think if they are vulnerable, it probably is more likely to come in this game than it would when they've had a free week to prepare. But I just look at that defence, as Neil was talking about, with the stats on the clean sheets, on the spin, and until they do sort of concede, I'm going to just go with the Man City to win to 0.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. They are on fire in the Premier League. One hand on the Premier League title anyway. OK, game preview 2 on Sunday, Leicester against Arsenal. I mean, everyone talks about Jamie Vardy, and rightly so. Let's talk about James Maddison and Harvey Barnes as well. How do they make this Leicester side so difficult to stop? How difficult is it to stop them?
Yeah, I think Leicester have been a good side to watch this season. I really like Harvey Barnes. You know, he's on the fringes, isn't he, of being in and around that England setup. Maddison, the same. He went off last week, Maddison, with a slight knock. It'd be interesting to see if he makes it in time or not. They've got quite a big Europa League game ahead of this game. So have Arsenal. Certainly a lot to play in both of those games to progress in the tournament. Vardy benefits a great deal from those two players, and if Maddison's missing, it takes a slight edge away from Leicester in terms of that attacking prowess. But both have done extremely well this season, and if both play between now and the end of the season with Vardy, you think Leicester will be good for that top 4. Yeah,
I mean, should Harvey Barnes be in the England squad for the Euros, and should Maddison be in the team?
I don't think Maddison should be in the team, no. I think that he would be... He'd still... I know Grealish is injured at the moment, but if you... I'm not even sure that he'll pick Grealish, but if you had to pick one of those to sort of be in there, I would still go for Grealish ahead of them. I mean, you've got Rashford and Sterling, Foden, Sancho sort of fighting maybe for the wider positions. So Harvey Barnes, he might be a little bit unlucky. He should definitely be in the conversation, and I mean, it might be a case of Southgate taking fewer centre forwards and maybe relying on sort of Rashford to kind of do both jobs, if you like, and Sterling's played up front for City as well. But I mean, he should definitely be in the chatter, but it's just difficult. How many wingers can you take? I'm not sure how many you can take more than that, but he's got to be in the conversation because he's just playing so well for Leicester, yeah.
In terms of Arsenal, I hope they do well in Europe next season. The mighty Benfica they've got, so we'll see what happens there. But I mean, they showed character against City, but it is 3 defeats in 4, and they've dropped into the bottom half now with the Leeds beating Southampton. Where do you see them? Jens Lehmann has been typical, criticising Arteta, saying he makes it all about him. I think it's quite easy to disagree with some of the things he did on the pitch, but do you disagree with him, what he's saying about Arteta and Arsenal generally?
I think the frustrations for Arsenal fans are that they're so far off it. You know, they wanted to be competing, didn't they, for top 4 minimum, and they're not even close to that at the moment. Top 6 as well. You're thinking it might be a big ask to get in those European places. The Europa League becomes a priority for Arsenal this season, which is it's a tough ask. You know, there's some good teams left in that tournament. You mentioned Benfica; they've still got to get through that game as we speak at this moment in time. It's a worry for Arsenal fans when they see themselves in the bottom half of the table, because that's not where Arsenal want to be, and this is a tough game. You mentioned about the run, they've lost 3 of the last 4 games, and you're thinking, going to do well to get anything from that game against Leicester this weekend. So you can see the frustration, but while they're still in that Europa League, still a chance of getting in the Champions League, I think that will keep Arteta satisfied.
Yeah, and still very much a work in progress under Arteta. Needs a couple more windows. So Betfred selections for this game is a really tough one, isn't it, for Arsenal?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Vardy and thinking, he's got 1 goal in 10. A striker like that does not stay quiet for that amount of time. He's going to come good and he's going to start scoring again. He loves to score against Arsenal. Home and away last season. He got the winner earlier on in the season, Vardy to score, and a Leicester win for me.
I'm going to go for under 2.5 goals in this game. If you have a look at Arsenal's matches against the big teams this season, Neil just mentioned that one. That was a really late winner from Vardy. They had 1-0 against Manchester City. They had the 1-0 and a 0-0 against Manchester United as well. So I think Arteta's sorting out the defence, but he can't get that balance between defending better but then sort of offering the same threat going forward.
Yeah, I actually can see both teams scoring in this one, to be honest with you. I mean, I think Leicester have got every chance of finishing the best of the rest. And that's not just top 4, that's second. And I wouldn't have said that even last week with Liverpool as well. Arsenal have very good individuals, but as I say, I think they're still a work in progress. So for me, with the form that Leicester are in, or perhaps the bad form that Arsenal are in, I can see Leicester winning this, but I do think both teams will score. OK, game preview 3, it is Spurs against Burnley. We touched on Mourinho's comments at the top of the show. How big a game is this for Jose? I mean, not suggesting he will get the sack if they lose this, but how much under pressure would he be?
Oh, he's definitely under pressure because, I mean, the thing is, he's not improved enough players, and when he gets paid the money that he does, you could have an average manager on a lot less money doing a similar job. So you pay Mourinho, one, for the showbiz. I'm sure there was a bit of that in Daniel Levy's thinking, but ultimately Levy didn't want to give Pochettino an absolute fortune to rebuild the team. He wanted to employ a manager that could get the best out of those that were already there, and Mourinho hasn't managed to do that so far. They've had a really tough run of matches as well. They lost to Chelsea, they lost to Liverpool, lost to Man City, and then away at West Ham. Those are in the top sort of 5 or 6 of the league. So it has been a tough spell. This is a much different game.
It's where Spurs want to be, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And you have to do better. Tottenham have to do better for sure. But their next 3 Premier League matches are Burnley, Crystal Palace, and Fulham. Nothing's a given, obviously, in the Premier League, and particularly at the moment. But if they win those 3 matches, suddenly that league table can look a lot different, and you could be sat here sort of around about the international break talking about Tottenham sort of challenging again for top 4. They've got to win the game, starting with Burnley.
It can turn around that quickly, but if they don't, under big pressure. I mean, do Spurs, do you feel, I understand about the difficult games that they've just recently played, do they prefer playing a top team so they can just sit back and then counter-attack, or what about Burnley? They're a very difficult side to break down, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, and I think Spurs will be expected to win the game. That's what will be expected ahead of this game. Burnley make it difficult for the opposition, and they're on a good run themselves. I think they're unbeaten in 4 games. They've been to Liverpool and won. They've been to Arsenal and won. They're capable of going to places and frustrating teams and getting the result. I just look at this game as almost a must-win for Spurs. They've had that difficult spell and some tough games along the way. They were in a strong enough position in the Europa League first leg to rest a couple, ready to try and get the 3 points in this game. I thought they played well second half against West Ham, made a real game of it, maybe a little bit unlucky not to have got something from it. And I saw Harry Kane that just started to see him get fully fit, and I think he'll be a big player in this game. So I see nothing other than Spurs getting back to winning ways. And a side like Burnley, as good as they've been with that unbeaten 4, you're thinking, how long can they keep going unbeaten for? Because the 6 points clear of the relegation places, which is a decent enough position for Burnley.
They're not in trouble?
Oh, they're in trouble. Yeah, they're still not safe. They're still looking over the shoulder at this moment in time. But I think Spurs will respond by getting the result this weekend.
OK, what is your Betfred selection?
I fancy, believe it or not, over 2.5 goals.
Do you?
Yeah, but Burnley will struggle to contain Spurs' attack. If they play like they did second half against West Ham, I'm expecting Spurs to be on the front foot with Harry Kane to get a couple.
OK, Mark?
I think the Bale's introduction at half-time and sort of his best 45 by a long way could be influential in this game. I'm going to go for Tottenham to win and under 3.5 goals. So me and Neil's bets can both win if it's sort of a 2-0, 2-1 or 3-0. And Tottenham, of their last 8 Premier League wins, 7 have been with no more than 3 goals in it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I do agree they were excellent in the second half against West Ham and probably deserved to get something out of it. I see this as being a very ugly game, very, very important for both. I think it'll be a game of few opportunities, and I only see 1 goal in it. But I think that goal will go to Spurs.
One of us will be right.
You would have thought so. OK, game preview 4 on Sunday. Good game, Chelsea, Manchester United. Just how good was that result and performance against Atletico last night?
I thought it was unbelievable that they've gone to... Well, they've not gone to Atletico, have they, because of the neutral venue. But to beat a team like Atletico is really impressive for Chelsea, because I see Atletico as one of the favourites for the Champions League. They're such a hard team to beat anywhere, home or away. So, brilliant result for Chelsea. It gives them that advantage. The tie's not dead. Atletico still very much in it. But I think since Tuchel's come in, Chelsea have done really well. The momentum's changed, the confidence has been renewed. You've seen that in the Premier League form. And I think a result like that against Atleti is huge going into a big game at the weekend against Manchester United.
Yeah. He's played everything really well, and I'm not quite sure it's relevant now, but one thing he hasn't, or what he did with Callum Hudson-Odoi, what did you make of it? I mean, where he brought him on at half-time against Southampton, took him off 30 minutes later, saying he wasn't happy with the players' attitude and energy. I think we all can see that wasn't necessarily the case. What he did on the ball wasn't great, but I mean, I suppose it's moved on a couple of days. So my question to you is, how do you see him being managing players going forward, do you think there could be problems in the future? And this is a short-term thing, as well as he's done since he's come in?
Well, we've been in that dressing room, and it's a risk for a manager to do that.
It's a big risk, isn't it, to sub us up?
You can unsettle the dressing room thinking, hang on, he's doing something there that I don't like. I don't want to be in a similar position myself. Now, maybe he's an easy option because he's a younger player, Hudson-Odoi. But even so, it wasn't nice to see that because it didn't have any impact on the result either way. He played in a very impressive win, didn't score against Athletic, but he was in the starting lineup, so perhaps there may be some kind of a reaction. I think what we saw from that was Tuchel's in charge. Now, if you want to be part of his plans, you're going to have to do what he says in terms of when he gives you those instructions. But I thought it was a risky move.
Yeah, it's almost a Jose Mourinho type thing, and we know what can happen there. What do we make of Manchester United right now? Not great versus Newcastle, but scored 3. Is that what you want when you're not playing well, or are they going to actually probably go on a bit of a bad run?
They do this quite often, Manchester United, where you're not sure they're playing that well, but they've got real quality in the final third that makes a big difference. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but it does. You don't need to be this great collective team. You know, you can just have Bruno Fernandes or Marcus Rashford, or if it's Cavani. They've just got the players in that final third that they've spent a lot of money on, or wages wise. And that's what you get. They're a team that I'm still not entirely sure they're coached brilliantly, but they've got individuals that win matches, and I think that they win enough matches that they're expected to win. To finish in that top 4. I don't think it's a given that they'll finish in the top 4 because, like you just alluded to, that there, Scott, I'm not sure they are playing particularly well, and that there might well be some big threats to come, particularly if they lose this game at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, when I was at Chelsea, Ruud Gullit used to say, I just want each player to do 2 things that can affect the game. Not necessarily control the game, but 2 things that can affect it. He's mentioned a couple of players there. What about the likes of Anthony Martial, who's only scored 4 league goals this season? Is he worthy of being a United player right now?
Well, that's a disappointing return, but because Fernandes has been so good, because Rashford's been so good, kind of getting away with it.
They're top scorers, but he's got 4.
Yeah, but he's getting away with it because the other boys are still performing, and United are still getting the results. And at times, he will be needed to certainly contribute. I mean, Manchester United have been one of the surprises of the season. They were way off it last season. I think many were thinking, how long's Ollie got left? And all of a sudden, they're unbeaten in 12 months away from home. Manchester United, it's just unbelievable to think that they've been on that sort of a run. 1 defeat in 19 to Sheffield United, which was a surprise. And they're actually 10 points off the title. People are talking that they could potentially win the league. That's how good Manchester United have been this season to turn it round. And this is a game where I would have looked at and thought, Chelsea. But the run that United have been on, yes, they've got a Europa League game ahead of it, but they're already through in that game. So I think they'll reserve enough. The key players will be ready for that game. And I just wonder how much that game will take out of Chelsea against Athletic. So I'm going to sit right on the fence for this one. Both teams to score, and I can't see a winner.
Okay.
I think Chelsea will win. I think that they're better team defensively, and it might only take 1 goal to win it.
I can't believe Chelsea are 6-5 while United are 12-5, and the draw's 12-5 as well. I mean, the bet here for me is United to go there and win, but I'm going for a score draw. I think Chelsea defence has been good, but I think they can be taken out a little bit of what happened midweek, and it'll be a second string, I'm sure, against Real Sociedad for United. Good game though, looking forward to it. Okay, one game I know you're looking forward to as well.
It's the big one, isn't it?
Sheffield United, just done the big one.
Yeah.
Sheffield United against Liverpool.
Scored my first career goal in this fixture.
Did you? Go on, tell us about it.
Good job there was no VAR. I was looking at the linesman thinking that must be offside. In front of the away fans at Bramall Lane for Liverpool.
Brilliant. As I say, they might need you back. I mean, 4 straight defeats. It's 6 defeats in 9 now. And since beating Palace 7-0, that was in December, they briefly moved 5 points clear at the top. I mean, since then, just 2 wins in 11. They hadn't lost to hadn't lost to Everton at Anfield this century. They go and do that. Look what's happened to Jordan Henderson now, the centre-back curse. Are there any positives you can take right now for Liverpool moving forward, that they're going to turn this around? And question marks now about the top 4, isn't it?
Here's a positive. They've had 7 days to prepare for a fixture. So we talk about the congestion within the fixture list. They've had 7 days on the back of that really disappointing result against Everton. There's talk about Jota returning to training, Keita returning to training, Fabinho returning to training. training. But like you say, Henderson's another player that's been added to that injury list. 18 different centre-half partnerships. It's such disruption that I think any team would struggle with, but it's the knock-on effect then that Liverpool have had in midfield. Maybe being a bit fortunate that the front three have been fit and available for so many games, but it's been a mixture. Didn't take the chances against Everton, that front three, and that was a result at key moments why didn't get anything from the game. But like you mentioned, that 7-0 against Palace, you just can't write this attack off for Liverpool. Yeah. You know they'll come good. And a game like this against Sheffield United, you think, with that freshness, with that criticism that's come over having lost 4 games in a row, with the talk of maybe missing out on Champions League football, they're going to come good, and this could be the one where they do.
Might be rock bottom if they lose this one, or is this the perfect game for them actually?
It's the next game. It has to be the perfect game. Like you say, if they weren't to get a positive result, I think the pressure then builds even further. This is a tough game. You know, I watched Sheffield United come to Anfield earlier on in the season, gave Liverpool a really good game. Jota got the winning goal eventually on that day. And when you think of Sheffield United, rock bottom, cut adrift, aren't they, at the moment in terms of staying up this season? They only lose by the odd goal, the majority. They're always fighting, they're always battling, and I think that's where you have to give Chris Wilder credit at Sheffield United. They're still battling, fighting away from, and that'll be the same this weekend. They've got injuries themselves. They had a bad luck against Fulham last weekend with a big VAR call. They will be fighting like mad and making it hard for Liverpool.
I don't know anyone apart from Wednesday fans who don't want Sheffield United to somehow do a miraculous recovery, and Chris Wilder, a fantastic guy, and I know him well. But if they were to get out of trouble, they needed a win against Fulham, didn't they? It's Houdini stuff now.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the only hope you would have is that, I suppose it's not we're heading towards March now, but there's still more games to play than would ordinarily be the case. So you feel like you're at the end of the season, but there are more games and more points to play for. But you're asking them to sort of almost get Manchester City-like run when they're on a Sheffield United-type run and they're bottom of the table.
And 15 goals in 25 games.
Exactly. I mean, they're in a lot of games, but you look at those forward line, and for whatever reason, he's not mad on Brewster, even when when they bought him, he didn't chuck him in, and that hasn't worked for them. I thought it would. I felt like that was a signing that made sense to me. A little bit expensive for Sheffield United, of course, but I can understand why, because you're getting somebody that, even if you go down, you think he's already done it in the Championship. So, but he doesn't seem to have sort of liked something about what Brewster was doing. So you got Billy Sharp, McBurney, McGoldrick. I mean, they're all better than me. They're on his pros and everything, but they're not of the required sort of standard, are they, really, in terms of keeping a team in the Premier League? So. No, I don't see how they stay up.
Yeah, I think Ryan Brewster might come good next season, and then if they do go up again, then maybe he would have learnt more and become a Premier League player. But Betfred selection here then, do we know what you're going to say?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Sheffield United, 1 clean sheet all season. Can't see them getting another one this weekend. They do score goals in the last few games at home, 6 of the last 7, so I think they will score. I'm going for over 3.5 goals. I think we're going to see an entertaining game in this one, and I'm hoping my former team, Liverpool, come out on top. I believe they will.
I'm going for Liverpool. Neil did mention it earlier about how they only lose by 1 goal, Sheffield United. I'm going for Liverpool to win by exactly 1 goal. Sheffield United have been in the games against Leicester where they lost by 1, Chelsea lost by 1, Man United they lost by 1, Man City lost by 1 as well at home. So, a narrow Liverpool win.
They have been in games, they really have. But I don't know, I just can't see Sheffield United, even against a very weakened Liverpool side. I love watching Liverpool. We've not seen him in the last 10, 11 games, the Liverpool the last few years. I think they'll bounce back in this game, and I can see them winning this, not necessarily by 3 or 4-0, but I can see them winning it 2-0. So that's my prediction. Okay, let's go to the best fantasy football picks this weekend. Each of us pick 1 player that we think will perform the best. Who have you gone for?
I've gone for, in my opinion, the best striker in the Premier League, Harry Kane. I think he's back fit now. He's gone 2 games without scoring a goal.
That's a drought.
For Tottenham, which is a drought for him. He's not gone 3 games all season without a goal for Tottenham. He's done it, I think, once in the last 3 or 4 years. So a player like Harry Kane scores goals. And I think we'll see him back. I saw in the second half against West Ham a player getting close to that top form again. And I think he will hit form this weekend and certainly get at least 1 goal this weekend.
Okay, Mark, have you seen if the Villa players have Jack Grealish in their fantasy football?
Yeah,
we need to know if he's playing, but it looks like he won't anyway.
No. The Dean Smith and the Villa hierarchy have banned their players now from playing fantasy football after some of them took Grealish out of the team, and then because there was a Friday game, a lot of the people had noticed that Grealish had been taken out, and I'm sure I knew on Friday night, and so I'm sure if I knew, Brendan Rodgers would have known, and that's a big advantage, because they'd look to keep that secret about Grealish being out, and to have an extra day to prepare for that was, I think, a real silly move by the Villa players, really.
Potential for insider knowledge as well, which you don't want to go down that route.
Some managers say they allow their teams to play fantasy football. You're not allowed to have anybody in your own team, which might be a sort of safer way of the guys still having a bit of fun with it, but not sort of treading that over that line.
Yeah. So have you gone?
I think there's always rumours with certain players are playing, certain players aren't playing. Until you see that team sheet, it's always hard to know which rumours are the ones to believe.
The Liverpool social media, I don't know, somebody always seems to find that Liverpool team. Jurgen Klopp needs to sort that one out as well.
Yeah. There's Dean Smith livid, Jurgen livid as well. That's you.
Definitely not me.
I've gone for an outside sort of, I suppose, somebody that you wouldn't ordinarily have thought of for the fantasy this week. He's a cheap option, but Diagne at West Brom. West Brom have got a couple of home games coming up, and I've quite liked what I've seen of him. He was offside that ruled out some chances against Tottenham. Scored against Manchester United. He was really unlucky against West Brom. He was top scorer in Turkey a couple of years ago, so he has got some ability. And Allardyce can get the best out of certain players, and I think he's doing well with Diagne.
Okay, I'm going a bit more obvious like you. I think Liverpool have too much class to be where they are right now. I do think they'll bounce back. I think they've got to beat Sheffield United, and when the pressure's on, they normally come up trumps. Normally. I said last week to you that I still fancy them finishing second. If they lose this one, then there's a genuine battle for top four. But I think Mo Salah will step up again. He's been one of the few players who's been still form, been absolutely fantastic, and with him being on pens as well.
Due one, not had one for a while. So
I think he'll get one, if not two. We shall see. Okay, team treble. Have to say, last week we did pretty well, didn't we?
Well, you did, Scott. You did fantastic with your Crystal Palace. Never in doubt, was it? Crystal Palace to beat Brighton. 2 touches in the Brighton box, bang.
The biggest daylight robbery anyway ever. But I tell you what, it was one of those where I looked at the odds and I just thought, this is the equivalent of a derby where form goes out the window. As it happens, Brighton weren't that much better. But results are strange. And I went for that, 16 to 1.
16 to 1 treble, yeah. So a bit of pressure, Neil.
Yeah, no pressure.
A bit of pressure. Kev Phillips went for City, didn't he? It was like 8 to 15, so it wasn't an obvious one there. Who have you gone for?
Quite an obvious one. I'm going to go for Spurs this weekend, and the reason being, they've been on a poor run of form. I just feel as though it's at that time where they have to get the result. And I know Burnley can make it difficult, they can frustrate opposition. I thought they got lucky, a little bit fortunate last week, Burnley, with that game against West Brom, to get something from the game. West Brom played really well. Unbeaten in 4, Burnley, I just think this one could be too much for them. And like I say, I'm expecting Harry Kane to be on form, on fire, and be the difference in this fixture. So Tottenham is my bet of the weekend.
Okay.
I've gone really quite safe as well, sort of shorter odds than I usually do, but Peterborough to beat Wigan in League One. Peterborough can be they have had their inconsistent moments, but actually they're in a real purple patch at the moment, scoring a lot of goals. As you'd imagine, Peterborough always score a lot of goals. Got another 3 on Tuesday night, and Wigan are, it's a tough season for them.
Yeah, I think they're going to win the League One title, let alone finishing the automatic promotion places. I'm also League One as well. Oxford to win at MK Dons. After a tough start, I think Carl Robinson has done exceptionally well. In the last 12 league games, they've won 9. Or they lost to Portsmouth on Tuesday, but that's a difficult game. MK Dons lost 2, so it probably levels out. Yeah, I do worry for Charlton. That 6th spot, Oxford could get in there and even higher as well. So I fancy Oxford to win at MK Dons. And that's it, Neil, we're finished. Back to Liverpool TV this weekend?
Back to winning ways, I hope, yeah. I hope so.
Really enjoyed your company. Thank you very much. Good to see you. And Mark, as ever, thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, that's it for this week. We'll be back next week, of course, looking back on the results to see if Neil was spot on and if he's happy with Liverpool's win at Sheffield United. We shall see. So looking forward to that. And of course, as ever, from Betfred and also the Racing Post as well, if you do gamble, please gamble responsibly.